Good? All right. It's just about that time. We are under 1 minute here. And the kids got to ring the bell this morning. How cool was that? Thanks, kids. Well, good morning and welcome. Happy Mother's Day to everyone who mothers. I am Reverend Karen LeBlanc. I minister to this congregation as we minister to each other here. Oh, we are a beloved community of people who believe that everyone is worthy of respect, that science is real, the democratic process is a sacred thing, that we are all part of an interconnected web, and that the light and energy that we share and put out makes a difference in this world. We are people of purpose here. And love is the doctrine of this church, by the way. So if what you hear today resonates with you, we hope you will consider becoming part of this way cool community of seekers and keepers of this very long dream that is our church. You will also be part of welcoming some new members today, and that should be fun. First Unitarian Church in New Bedford recognizes that the land that we inhabit and enjoy sits on the unceded ancestral land of the Wampanoag, the people of the First Light. We actively commit ourselves here to the process of working to dismantle the legacy of colonialism and oppression of our country's native peoples and all who have been marginalized. We have some interesting things happening today. As I said, we will be welcoming some new members. Our speaker today is Judy Lund, our resident church historian and historian on a much grander scale when it comes to local history. And of course, a longtime member of this church, so we are pleased and honored to have her. If you are new and want to be on our mailing list, go ahead and sign this card that you'll find in your pew and put it in the offering basket. Join us for coffee hour after the service, right through that door. And we are live streaming. Good morning to our folks online watching us today. We welcome you and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Oh, we've got a whole bunch of people coming through the door. Beautiful. And if you would put your phones in worship mode so we can make this a sacred space, we'd appreciate that. Where is Brody, our official, what did you want to be called, the chancellor or something? Yes. The chancellor. The chancellor will light the candle for us. You got him? Oh, can you take that other box out of there? We light this chalice for mothers and mothering, to celebrate those who have taken on the task of nurturing a young one, a baby, child, or youth into adulthood, to celebrate those who have nourished the light of truth and the compassion in growing minds and hearts, to celebrate those who have committed time, money, energy to the growth of others in this world. So we light this chalice to celebrate and hold dear this flame of love. And we've got an awful lot of history today in our service. So our opening words are from Reverend Paul Revere Frothingham from 1899. Things new and old, let us think of them today as we open the treasure of experience. For we are householders of a religious faith, and this faith is one that instructs us. It is well that we should pause for a moment and look into each other's faces. It is well that we should bring out the treasures of our memories, things old, and out of the treasure of our hopes, things new. Amen to that, my friends. And now, join me for our first hymn, number 1. Hymn number 1. This is the hymn that I do traditionally as our first hymn of the year, but I love it for its blessing quality. So please rise as you are willing and able and sing with me. May nothing evil cross this door. May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth of all the world grow chill will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. Please take the time to greet one another this morning. And now, if you would remain standing for a moment while we recite our covenant, which is printed in your order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. Yasmin, our Director of Religious Education, what kind of story you got for us today?
The You Faith story. Let's hear it. This is the beautiful tree. I want you to envision it as it's so tall, and the roots and the branches. Both of my teachers aren't here today, and they were going to be sort of the Vanna White of the story, but now it's here. Well, you don't even have to, but you can. Great. So this is something that we used to do called the Spirit Play story, where when we tell the story, we put out the props as we go. So this is the tree of the Unitarian Universalism faith. This is our shared faith. And what is at the center? Obviously, love. Because it holds us together, and it actually helps us sort of weave our, shared values. So the branches are the values that we feel the world is calling us to hold up and to sort of live by our best values. Now, this summer at the UU General Assembly, Article 2 goes to vote. It has gone through all the vetting processes, and we will make it official in June. But these are the branches. Justice, because we use our voices to end racism and oppression and allow all to thrive. Equity, value every person and make space for them to thrive. Transformation, grow and change as the world changes. Pluralism, honor our differences and learn from one another. Interdependence, revere the earth and all beings and treat them with care. Generosity, be grateful and share freely with one another. So these are the branches. These values have grown out of our faith because we have many roots feeding them. That's where the you religion comes to play. Our beliefs come from our sense of wonder, and we learn by asking. That's the star. Our beliefs come from people from long ago, and today whose lives remind us to be kind and fair. And we learn by hearing their stories. Our beliefs about how to live together come from all of the world's religions, and so we learn from cultures. Our beliefs come from the Jewish and Christian teachings that tell us to love all others as we love ourselves. We want to be compassionate people. Our beliefs come from the use of reason and the discoveries of science, and we learn by using our minds. Our beliefs come from the sacred harmony of nature and the circle of life. And we learn by knowing we are part of that. We are part of nature. We are nature. We are the circle of life. So the roots and the branches are what we try to do here every Sunday morning and throughout our lives, 24/7. So when you're out and you're wondering what really is the UU faith, you remember the sources and the branches, and that makes our shared values with love at the center. And being Mother's Day, because we are UU people, everyone is sort of in a motherly role, no matter what your gender is. So whether you are a dog, cat, animal, parent, I don't know, everyone seems to be in a loving caretaking role. So we wish everyone a happy caretaking day. And so we will go off to Sunday school as we leave the sanctuary. May words I say be kind and true. May love be guide all of you. May kindness sing within our heart. And may peace be with us while we're apart.
Thanks, Yasmin. Oh, and there's my phone. Thank you. I've been working at the GA for the last several years talking about the new changes coming up, and I think we need Yasmin to bring us back to what it all means after we've been fighting for 3 years on whether it should be an and or a but, and, driving the whole place apart. So now is the time in our service where we share with each other our joys and our concerns. If you have something you would like to share, please come up, give us your name, and briefly tell us what's going on.
Hi, my name is Isaiah, and I just want to say I can't wait to see my mom today. Can't wait to see my mom today. That's what I wanted to say. We're going to have ice cream cake at 1 o'clock, so we're going to have to take off from coffee hour a bit early, sadly.
Ice cream cake is always a good reason to leave early.
So after church today and after we see Izzy's mom, the choir that I'm in outside of this church, we're having our spring concert. It takes place at 4 o'clock later this afternoon at Grace Episcopal just down the street. $20 a ticket. We do this twice a year, and I'm just feeling excited to put on a concert that just happens to be on Mother's Day. So if you don't have any Mother's Day plans, go down. You can check them out between lunch and dinner. Just settled in perfectly right there, 4 to 6, and enjoy concert with a bunch of singing and classical music and choir stuff.
Beautiful. Did you want to come up and say something? Did you want to say something about? No, I'm going to wait next week. Thank you. I will mention that my stepfather is in the hospital once again, so I'm sending out lots of prayers to him, and a prayer for my mom, who raised 5 children amazingly and is still going strong, cooking dinner for everybody today. No matter how much we try to not let her do that, she insists, and she gets it done like 4 days before. So even when we try to bring stuff, she goes, "Oh no, it's already done." So thanks, Mom. lit 2 candles, as is our practice here, one for all the joys and sorrows we keep in our hearts today, and one for everyone out there that does not have a safe and supportive place to share their joys and their concerns. Our first reading this morning is from the 1962 annual board report, which are not usually great reading, but this one's a pretty good one, from Sylvia Knowles, who was the board president in 1962. And this is actually, she got this little piece from Old Ship Church in Hingham. This church is essentially an historic church. I would like for us to think long and hard about what this means. I would suggest that it involves 2 important related meanings. The first is that the church has a long past. The second is that because of that past, the church has a peculiar responsibility to the future, while at the same time it faces this responsibility under handicaps not found in younger institutions. The past is a basis on which to grow, but it can also block growth. It can be a source of values, but it can also cloud our vision. It is the future of this church that is our historic responsibility. I am going to say that again. It is the future of this church that is our historic responsibility. Let that sink in. Our prayer, if we can get into a headspace for some prayer and meditation right now. This is from Victoria Weinstein, and it's called A Prayer for All Who Mother. We reflect in thanksgiving this day for all those whose lives have nurtured ours. The life-giving ones who heal with their presence, who listen in sympathy, who give wise advice, but only when asked for it. We are grateful for all those who have mothered us, who have held us gently in times of sorrow, who celebrated with our triumphs, no matter how small, who noticed when we changed and grew, who praised us for taking risks, who took genuine pride in our success, and who expressed genuine compassion when we did not succeed. On this day that honors mothers, let us honor all mothers, men and women alike, who from somewhere in their being have given freely and wholeheartedly life and sustenance and vision to us. Dear God, Mother, Father of us all, grant us life-giving ways, strength for birthing, and a nurturing spirit, that we may take attentive care of our world, our communities, and those precious beings entrusted to us by biology, or by destiny, or by friendship, fellowship, or fate. Give us all the heart of a mother today. Amen. So earlier this year, we had a little welcoming dinner for our new members this year, but I would ask those new members to come forward now, and we're going to do so. So we've got David Godinez, we've got Sri Lakshmi, come on up, Gandam. I see you back there, Ashley Correa, you get over here. I did put out the call, and Bree and David were supposed to be here. I know that a lot of people have been sick this week, and Steve and Deb have been in our hearts with bad case of COVID, both of them this week. So come on up. So Ashley's mom also joined the church. She lives in Florida, but she is hoping to come back. Oh, that's right. Her mom had already been a member and had to re-sign. So as I do every year, before we start, is there anyone else who would like to become a new member here? Today, going once. No, you can join anytime you want, but I always like to ask. So these guys have been here for more than a month, which means you will be able to vote in next week's annual meeting. So that's terrific. Okay, so membership in a spiritual community means sharing yourself with others as yourself grows and changes. It means supporting each other in our individual and collective pursuit of truth. And here it means being keepers of a long dream. And the future of this church is indeed our historic responsibility. We have gathered here for centuries, seeking a higher purpose and a deeper life than we can do alone. So as we have done happily over and over again, we welcome our new members today. Annie Ellis is not here. She said she would be here too. We've got David, we've got Sri Lakshmi, and we've got Ashley up here, but we also had Dave and Bree LeBrie, and Annie Ellis, as I said, and Susan Knight are our new members, 7 new members this year. So we welcome you all. We are grateful for each one of you that you have found your way here and that you have decided to make a commitment to this community. We hope that as members of this church, you will also allow yourselves to know and be known, to minister and to be ministered to love and to be loved by this congregation. So new members, we are so glad that you have chosen this community of fellow seekers to travel with on your life's journeys. Will you accept our gifts of fellowship, discovery, and service, and some cool stickers? Yeah? Oh, good. Will you offer us your unique perspective and gifts? Yeah? Will you add your name to the long history of Unitarian Universalist men and women who spread hope with our living faith? Will you engage with us as we seek to create a beloved community in a world dedicated to love and justice? I knew it. Our congregation, my friends, will you welcome these new members with the warmth and comfort of your fellowship? Yes. Will you seek to add to your strengths and talents the new gifts that they bring to us? Will you share our triumphs and our struggles as our community grows and changes? Yes. Then with the blessings of this congregation and all of the ancestors of this church, I officially welcome you into this community of caring and trust. To make new stickers, we got a couple of limited runs to see what they would look like. So only the new members this year are going to get this limited run of UU New Bedford Acceptance Community and coffee. You will know them by their stickers. You may be seated. Thank you very much. All right, thank you. All right. Now we are going to sing a hymn from the dedication service of this church, May 23rd, 1938. In some of your old hymnals there's still a plaque at the back of the book that has this song in it. But it is printed in your order of service, and it says that it was written for and sung at the dedication of the service of the church in 1838, and then again at the 100th anniversary in 1938. And it says that the author and music to which it was originally sung are unknown. Judy seems to think that the tune of Duke Street that we will be singing it to today quite possibly was the original tune that it was also sung to. So let's give it a go. Have a stand up if you are willing and able. Please be seated. Not a bad hymn. I kind of feel our ancestors smiling on us for singing that one. Might not have been sung since 1938, I'm not sure. Now is the time in our service where we ask you for your kind donations toward the many good works of this church, and we sure do appreciate your generosity. would like to welcome up Judy Lund, our resident historian, a great local historian, a longtime member of this church, which I am sure has held every chair on every committee at some point. We're just so pleased to have her give us a little history today. Thanks, Judy. Welcome.
And thank you, Randy, for all that nice music. And because I'm full of extraneous historical facts, I will say it's particularly appropriate that he's chosen the Alcott piece because Louisa May Alcott, as you may know, summered in South Dartmouth for many years. We are the inheritors of a long tradition in this church, a church that predates the establishment of the United States and certainly of the incorporation of this city of New Bedford. The forebears of our congregation first gathered at the head of the river, now New Bedford, but which was then part of the extended town of Dartmouth. Dartmouth was incorporated in 1664. In the eyes of the then government in Boston, if you were a town, you had to have a town church and a town minister. Now, Dartmouth was settled primarily by Quakers who did not want or need a settled minister. They believed they should commune directly with their God without interference of anyone else. Reverend Samuel Hunt was sent to Dartmouth by that government in Boston to be minister over all of Dartmouth, as the town was then known, because Old Dartmouth was the 5 towns that was Westport, Dartmouth, Acushnet, Fairhaven, and who have I forgotten? Fairhaven, Acushnet, New Bedford. As I learned after I moved here, Hunt was my mother's great-great, ever so great-great. So I guess there's a reason that this history sermon falls to me from time to time. Maybe this is the last time, who knows? The Dartmouth selectmen refused to pay for that minister. And as a result, they went to jail, where one of them died in jail. After this debacle, an emissary went to the British king, who heard the argument and ruled that Dartmouth citizens did not have to pay the tax for the minister. Strike one for religious liberty, and for my ancestor, Samuel Hunt, and Meag's ancestor, Samuel Hunt. His congregation continued to support him, and he stayed. And I wish I knew more about the separation of church and state, because this is one of the earliest examples of fighting the combination of church and state. We've had some fine ministers over the years, particularly those early years. Humanity, however, is what it is. We also had one, Mr. Cheever, you'll see over here, who was invited to leave in a great hurry. And the minutes for the conclusion of the annual meeting said, and Mrs. Jenny will not sue the church. We don't know quite what Mr. Cheever was up to, but the truth of the matter is there's nothing new under the sun. Samuel West, our fourth minister, on the other hand, went from New Bedford to make his place in the early government of our country. He got Hancock out of a sick bed to go do what he needed to do. And if you're interested in exploring, you can go to the cemetery on Main Road down the way from Lund's Corner. Lund's Corner was a distant relative of my late husband, and see the gravestone of Hunt and other early ministers. And the front steps are still there that led up to that church. And if you, before you go out this door to enjoy coffee, go out into the lobby, you will see Nat Smith's drawings of the early church buildings that were up at the head of the river, and the church that was downtown before this one. Eventually, the congregation split, and the more liberal part moved down the river to the center of what is today New Bedford. And that was becoming, originally the head of the river was the settlement of New Bedford, but in truth, business was booming down here, and so the center of the city really moved down the river, partly because of the whaling industry. And that congregation that moved down the river worshiped on Purchase Street, the site of which is now the Bay Bank building. And there is, or used to be, a large plaque on the side of that building that explains its history. Though the Unitarians, or Congregationalists, as they were called then, may seem important to us, they were a small portion of the population of New Bedford, both in numbers and in influence in the early 19th century. Quakers were still the majority, and the Quaker Meeting House is not far from here. Their simplicity set the tone for New Bedford. However, increasing wealth made possibilities for them, and some of them began to think about the unquakerly temptations of fine dress, elegant mansions, and public entertainments. As one writer in 1870s phrased it, the Friends had prospered in worldly affairs and had long been laying aside money for the sheer want of opportunities to spend it. Joseph Anthony, in his diary for 1923 and 24, which is now a published book you can read, and it's fun. The book is rare, but it gives a glimpse of the ferment among Friends in this period, the ferment which so influenced this church. It appears that instead of letting each people commune directly with their own God, there was a developing group of elders in New Bedford meeting that took it upon themselves to set the rules of behavior. And those Quakers began to rebel accordingly. Richard Kellaway, a long time ago, did a whole sermon on that subject, and it's available if anybody's interested. In 1823, our congregation, which was then at the corner of William and Purchase Streets, called the Reverend Orville Dewey to be a minister. And the diarist, Joseph Anthony, then a Quaker, attended today what we would call Dewey's candidating sermon. And he, in discussing that sermon with the Roaches at dinner that evening, Roaches were very powerful in this city, they all expressed their feelings that it was an exemplary sermon. Anthony attended the ordination of Mr. Dewey in December 1823, and records the house was completely filled. We can think about that. Great liberality of sentiment was advanced. No particular creed was required of Mr. Dewey, but he was left to teach the congregation after the dictates of his own heart. I was very much pleased and decided to take a pew. And if you'll remember, in those days, you took a pew and you paid for your pew. That was how the church was supported, and it was true of this church for quite a while, this building. You bought your pew, and we had a board of assessors who would each year decide the expenses of the church, and then they would assess the pew holders. It was eventually decided that that wasn't democratic, and so that practice was changed, and all the pews were bought up by the church. But that was the beginning of the defection of the Quakers. Soon, Charles W. Morgan, his wife, Sarah Rodman Morgan, followed the example. Also, Moses Grinnell, Benjamin Rodman, William Rodman, Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Robeson, and Mrs. James Arnold, among others, followed the examples of the Anthonys. And in the history of this city, those people lived not far away. The ensuing upheavals in the Quaker meeting added more former Quakers to the numbers of members in the Congregational Church, this church. Orville Dewey was a fine preacher. Church on Purchase Street soon became too small for that congregation, if you can believe it. The building was expanded, but before long, there was talk of building a new church. Something grander was needed for the then burgeoning business of New Bedford and the people who were responsible for it. Those people could afford a new church. But church committees move slowly. We all know that. And there was a financial crisis in the city. But by 1836, the well-known architects Russell Warren and Alexander Jackson Davis had been chosen to design the new church, this church. Land on Union and Purchase was bought from the Roaches, and building began in 1836 on this building. Both were very well-known architects, and interestingly, as I flipped through an old book about an exhibit on Russell Warren, it seems he essentially built this church a few more times around the country. In 1838, the Reverend Caleb Stetson, who in fact was my husband's forebear, preached the sermon at the dedication of this new building, our present building. Them apples haven't fallen far from the tree when you look at our family's heritage. Two new ministers and a new building entered into a relationship with a congregation rich in the roots and the money of New Bedford. John Weiss counseled against slavery in the 1840s. Stanton Hodgin spoke for the rights of mill workers in their labor dispute in 1828, although many of those mill owners were members of this church. Duncan Howlett, minister in New Bedford from 1938 to 1946, and then in Washington, D.C., stepped aside from his church in D.C., retired, because he felt a black minister should serve our denomination. Now, if you go back a ways, William Jackson, who was the chaplain to the 54th Regiment, the Black Regiment from New Bedford, wanted to have a church in this community, and our denomination discouraged him, did not want a black Unitarian church at that time. So things have finally changed a good deal. David Rankin counseled against the war in Vietnam in the early 1970s. We've had a great number of outstanding ministers. In 2009, our former minister, Dan Harper, published Varieties of Religious Experience in New Bedford, Massachusetts, a compilation of his research, and he did a lot of research, as put forth in his sermons. In 2011, the late Fred Giffen wrote a fine history of this church entitled New Bedford's Church. He preserved in great detail the stories of individual ministers and many photographs of this building and other aspects of the history of this congregation. Those books are both good reads, and Fred Giffen's book is available in the office, is it not, if you want to buy it? So in bypassing a great deal of history in the church and in the city, the changing industries, and there have been a lot, as you all know, and we're certainly in the process of looking at change again as the fishing industry wanes and the wind industry grows. We come to today, a poorer city and a much reduced church with declining membership since when this building was open. We used to be able to fill this sanctuary. We, the current members of this church, need to think and plan forward. The church has been a monument in this city since 1838, It appears in the skyline in many well-known works of arts, both prints and painting. It has and continues to foster a number of good works. It is time for us to think ahead and plan how this building can still be a vital force in the city, even if it means some changing uses in this building. We are not only householders of this religious faith, as Frothingham said 123 years ago, but householders of this building. The Long Range Planning Committee has brought us up to date on the current situation, and Carol and Carlton regretted that they were unable to be here today because their son's getting married. We should not let this report from the Long Range Committee sit on a desk. Reverend Potter said in June 1888 at the celebration of the 50th anniversary of this building, "It would not be in keeping with this society's past history to continue just what it is today. Change awaits it." His remarks are even more appropriate today. As we welcome new members into this church, I encourage them to add to their ideas to our ideas and to participate in these possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy Lund. Appreciate that. We have so much history here in our church, in our city. So I encourage you, if you like that sort of thing, go ahead and do some of your own research. Now, Judy, I think you might have taken my pages with you because you have my closing words somewhere. Tony, would you grab those? That's fine. Yes, we do have a hymn. But I will need these words after the hymn. Thank you. Awesome, thanks. That's the ones we're looking for. Okay, now if you will rise as you are willing and able and sing with me our final hymn in your teal hymnal, 1064, 1064.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Go ahead and be seated. Please remember that next week is our annual meeting, so please, if I could have all of the membership that can be here, please be here to vote on our budget, etc. Also, next week is the last week we will have Randy for this year. We will be doing a great service about Scott Joplin. You do not want to miss it. Oh, and the postlude today is not Bach, it is Buxtehude. I wanted to make sure that I corrected that for you. Now, our closing words from Reverend William Potter, the guy in that alcove over there. It would not be in keeping with this society's past history to continue just what is today. Changes await it, and indeed changes do await us. I am excited about where our congregation is going and how it's growing. So, in that vein, hold fast, my church. We love you. Stay strong. Live long and prosper. Go in peace. Stay for the postlude. Come drink some coffee with us.